that demonstrated, they just grasped a very good opportunity when the smartphone and mobile internet is rising, when the Android platform is rising, and they just grab this kind of the opportunities. So the following question is about the opportunities. So we still just wanted to define some, or just identify some key areas, or the key areas this can drive this kind of opportunities for the Chinese entrepreneurs. Because we know, and just John introduced the landscape, since we are embracing the third wave of internet, or we say the mobile internet, and Xinhua just told us some stories about how they just compete with the big giants or some very bloody competitors, and how they can just survive. So, just Xinhua just told me this kind of story, like how they compete with Qihoo. But YY is a very good example to compete with Tencent. So there are two things, and first is the opportunity is coming, and we are embracing the opportunity. The second thing is that they're still under the big pressure from those kind of giants. Though the giants, since the giants are still trying to dominate the market, dominate computation. But so how under this two kind of just based on this kind of the backgrounds, so how we can define the key areas for the Chinese startups to start, where you can achieve success better than before. Yeah. At current stage, how we can define it.
You always want me to start? You start, and then I'll yeah.
It's a great question. I actually recently wrote an article about app monetization. So my focus is very mobile, so I don't really speak for that. I can't speak for anything else. But this guy definitely has so many DAU, MAU. You guys really need to learn from him. But one of the things I think is so interesting to me is that, like Android particularly, really have flattened the world. Because if a lot of people actually don't know that, if you look at like the top Android developers, a lot of them are Chinese. You just don't know. But what's so cool is that the technology itself let anybody to be the top, as long as if you're good at creating a good product, you can really be in the top chart. It doesn't really matter where you're at. So that's number one. I think that sort of really kind of think is like a mindset thing. You don't have to only grow your product or whatever in your local market. The world is your oyster. It's definitely possible. So that's one thing. And also, holistically as a whole, especially for mobile, at least based on our study, is that the number one most monetizable market is actually Japan. So there's a lot of money to be made. If you're an app developer, particularly for games, the Japanese actually, the ARPU is monetized so much better than anywhere else. US is actually one of the many, many markets. So think globally, it sounds so cliche, but it's true. But now, for Chinese entrepreneurs, there's a lot of things to think about. Second thing is, I think in the past, because monetization, I'm actually reading this book halfway by Thomas Friedman that used to be Us, and he basically—
Very boring book, by the way.
Good book, good book, and he has a really, really good analogy. He's saying, China is sort of like champagne that's been shaken for 50 years, and now you open it up, it bursts out, right? So there's so much going on, it just comes out. But one other thing to really think about is, because now, Chinese is doing so well, it's okay to sort of not to think about monetization right away, to really think about the technology innovation.
This is a very interesting question. This is actually a very interesting question, right? Because we always ask ourselves, why does innovation, why does technology, why do startups work in the US? And the fundamental reason is when big companies in the US get big, they get lazy. They get lots of politics involved, and they can't innovate fast enough. Startups in the US can innovate very, very quick speeds. Big companies in the US, Yahoo, Google, etc., can't innovate as fast as a startup. In China, it's very different. Right? In China, you can see Tencent, hey, this WeChat thing or this instant messaging thing is very important. 10,000 people are going to go do it tomorrow. Right? And that's what happens. And so it's very difficult for a Chinese company, a startup, to innovate purely based on an idea. They have to have a competitive moat and a competitive advantage. YY competitive advantage was technology. We're going to build a server platform that can handle millions of concurrent users at the same time. Tencent couldn't do it. They tried many, many times, they couldn't do it. So you need to have a defensive moat around you if you're going to go after an existing market with a cheaper, better, faster. Because if you can't do that, the big guys are going to compete with you and they're going to kill you. So I think the greenfield opportunities in China are much more interesting for startups, meaning that there's nobody there right now and you can maybe innovate and get there faster. But Chinese big companies innovate at lightning speed, and it's scary as hell to be a startup in China if you're going after Tencent or Alibaba or Baidu or etc.
And a lot of Chinese, the giant, they do everything. They have the speed, they have the team, they have the capital, they do everything. I also feel that, you know, I agree with you. I think that another attitude is towards risk, how you handle failure. I think the good thing, a great thing about startup, a good startup is how flexible you can be, how quick you can pivot your business model. And when you go international, I think there's always a risk about uncertainty there. So startup, it's much easier to, you know, to mitigate the risk, but big companies is less likely to do so. I mean, if you look at a lot of the Chinese companies like Huawei or Haier, I think the international strategy is they're doing okay, but if you look at a lot of startup brands, I was with one of the mobile company, it's called TriHand. It's founded by 3 of the founders, 2 of them just graduated from school. They have about 200 million downloads, and they account for 15 of the download in the whole app economy, which is astonishing. And that's only 3 years after it was founded by 3 years. And that tells me that it's truly, you know, a borderless economy here.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, you know, we have to just give the microphones to our audiences. But before that, still one more question. I just want each of you answer the question in 1 or 2 sentences because the time is limited. It's about globalization. It seems we just see a lot of during the past 2 years, a lot of this kind of China startups are going abroad, like GoLauncher, like UC Web, the portfolio companies, like Kingsoft, as well as others. So just, could you just give us some very, very simple tips for this kind of companies going global? And Robin, you can just share your own experience on that. Okay? Very simple question. Just answer in 1 or 2 sentences. Time is limited.
Why Chinese company just must focus on the Chinese market? I don't think so. I think the next generation is belong to the Chinese company conquer all over the world. Because there is a lot of small company, maybe 60 people, 30 people, but they are the major player, top developer in the Android platform I know in China. But they develop fast, they develop silence under the water, but you can feel the floor. When they grow up the ice hill, they will be huge because 60 people have almost 50 million active users in game. Is really huge daily active user, right? So I think the blue sea of Chinese market, Chinese developer must focus on the global. Yeah, that's the most opportunity.
So that's not an option, right?
Yeah, it must.
I think that it's important that decision-making process is essence of company culture. You cannot always make decisions from headquarters back in China. You have to empower the local team.
So I'm going to be less serious, I think, because you were saying like advice for a Chinese entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So number 1, I think you guys need to chill out and don't be so serious all the time. One of the biggest thing I think with US entrepreneurs, they like to joke around, and also.
Really?
And one of the couple other things, just based on the entrepreneur I met here who's thinking about international market. Number 2, like American in general, really good at PR, really good at and building brands. It's not so much about, and so please don't do that to me. A lot of times I go to a Chinese event, first thing, they don't even ask my name, they will give me their business card. I'm like, who are you? But anyway, it's like about you. It's the brand like of yourself. So that's that, PR. Number three, I just read the last one.
2.
Okay, sorry.
One,
Okay,
0.
go.
It's
Go.
working.
Oh, all right. Last but not least is, I just lost my. Actually, if you're gonna grow the market, try. Sounds horrible. Not to hire a Chinese face. If you want to grow a global brand.
That's what Dolphin's doing now, right? Yes.
Yeah. Only hire non-Chinese. Just kidding. But that's not the point.
No, I'll try to be serious. I think Chinese entrepreneurs, really, Chinese entrepreneurs are 10x more commercial than US entrepreneurs. I'm Egyptian. I grew up in a market. I buy and sell things. I am very commercial. I negotiate. Chinese entrepreneurs are the same way. They're focused on making money. US entrepreneurs are focused on
Being cool.
being cool, PR, lots of reasons why Chinese entrepreneurs there. But all of the Chinese entrepreneurs that I've invested in or we know are very commercial. They're about making money, making a profit. And that's a huge advantage that's built into an entrepreneur in China.
Okay, I see. So no time for Q&As, or we still have time for Q&As? Okay, we will just leave